elder statesmen and women should be encouraged to speak out, because senior citizens in the country are expected to be the voices of reason and calm. They are also expected to be circumspect and maybe measured in their interventions. So that's why we have this special guest. But yes, it's not only that special guest. There is also a surprise. Yeah, today. Guess who is in the studio? Well, do I mention her name, or do I say she should tell her?
A very good morning to you, Mr. Lawrence, Ogalo, Lawrence Mwete. It's good to be here.
You guessed right. That's Kemi Asheko. Yes.
My loved ones call me Kem.
Kem. Yes, I'm sure you remember. So, Kemi is in the building, and together we will be having this discussion with our special guest. And
let me quickly say that it's a great pleasure to be here with you this morning. I have missed Citizen FM, but I had to get busy with a few other things, and it's a pleasure to be before an elder statesman, a man who has done great things as a youth and even as an adult, and has also given to the next generation an important and an amazing human being in the form of a woman journalist who has conquered in her own sphere. I can't wait to dig deep into what makes him tick, what makes him who he is, but I'll let you, kick off with that so that we then enjoy. For me, I feel like we're about to unwrap a nice meal.
Exactly, Kevin, and we're about also to learn from the fountain of knowledge. So let's not waste much. My guess is should I say Chief?
Yes,
Elder
Chief.
Statesman TAYO SUWUNMI. TAYO SUWUNMI. He's an elder statesman. He's an author. He's a media professional. And he's also a politician.
And a teacher.
Welcome to this special interview session on Citizen 93.7, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you, and even a privilege for Kemi and I to have you on the show. Once again, welcome.
Absolutely. For those who do not know, Chief TAYO SUWUNMI is in his 80s, so he has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly sides to our country, and I'm sure that he cannot wait to have it returned to perhaps what it used to be or better.
And it's still stand cerebral and very fit. Maybe we should start from that. What has been the secret? It's not easy to have someone of your age still having it there.
Standing gidigba.
But it's just like me not chewing more than I can, or biting more than I can. I'm not chewing more than I can bite, please. It is that a lot of people do not value their lives. They take on too many things at a time. And they work until they cannot no more work. I retired at the age of 48 from public service.
Wow.
And so I had time for myself. I had time to take care of my family and myself. So I also thank my children for taking good care of me. I lost my wife some 12 years ago, and the children came around me. But as you see, I'll be 82 in another few months. But I still have a young wife now. And just as late as last year, November, I had a set of twins.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So you see, it's just put your mind at what you're doing. Don't embark on what you cannot achieve. Don't think because your mates or your peers are doing this, you have to do it by all means. Everybody is born equal, but we are not equally talented, we are not equally endowed by God. So your own endowment is quite different from my own. So if you think because people are doing this and that, then you go into bad business, and that can cause trouble for you.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at an example of you not biting more than you can chew. There must have been some experience, or maybe someone came to you and said, Chief, let's quickly do this, and you turned it down. Because today we have in our society quite a number of young people who think that they must jump at every opportunity. There must have been opportunities you turned down at some point in your life that some people may have even said, oh, you're stupid, how could you have turned it down? Can you tell us a bit about such, at least one, of such an opportunity?
Well, I'll just start from my present station in life. As a former student leader, I had the opportunity to take on a lot of lucrative employments and so on. Some of my contemporaries were ministers 2 times. I've never been a minister, I've never been a commissioner.
Wow.
But I was a foremost frontline student leader. In my own time, there were only 6 universities in Nigeria. And at the University of Lagos, we set the pace at that time.
And you were the president?
I was the president and a very important member of the nuns at that time. The Murtala Muhammad coup was as a student arrest, which I led against the government of Gawan at that time. I remember when General Gawan spent almost 9 years in office, and by the time he ought to leave, he suddenly remembered that it was not time for him to go, that the date he set for us was not feasible. So we rose in arms with people like TAYO of blessed memory and a lot of other people. Eventually, Gowon had to leave, had to be forced out of office. All these got us into the mainstream of Nigerian politics. But what we were doing at that time, we were doing because we were very young, and we wanted a utopian condition for Nigeria. But when we left school, we discovered that what we were angry for in the university were not obtainable in the country. So a lot of my people, of my contemporaries who were presidents of the SUG in my time, quickly attuned themselves to what was going on in Nigeria, and they became ministers. They became some of them ambassadors. But I couldn't do that.
Why?
I couldn't do it because I was doing what I was doing genuinely, patriotically, thinking that if everybody told our way our line, Nigeria would be better. And when I left the university, I had 9 employments, employments or appointments, if you like. But I chose to go into trade union instead of going into politics, into the government. So I became the secretary of the Nigeria Union of Teachers. And there too, I ran into trouble with a lot of people, including the then government of Lagos State.
Yes, exactly, sir. I was coming to that because we know that your radicalism was not restricted to unionism. Even in politics, you are on record to have confronted the then Unity Party of Nigeria, which was almost like a suicide in those days.
Yes. Well, quickly, I will tell you that my problem with Lateef Jakonde, the governor of Lagos State, started when I joined the NUT as the secretary, the first graduate secretary of the NUT. And what I met on ground was not good at all. Teachers were being trampled upon. They were nothing. They were given promotions, and the promotions were withdrawn. That was the point at which I joined the NUT. So I waged a war against the government then. And for that, the government paraded me through all the courts in Lagos State. Every time I went out, I had to go with my sponge, my toothpaste, and so on, because I didn't know.
Be ready for any eventuality.
And it did happen a couple of times. But before I forget, you asked me what happened.
Opportunities that you may have turned down that, you know, is an example of not biting more than you could chew.
Exactly. That's because when I came out of university and went to the NUT for employment, it was a very bad choice in the face of some people. But I loved it because that was what I wanted to do. Up till now, I'm still what I was in the school.
A teacher.
Yeah, a teacher and an activist. Remember, I was the Ogun State chairman of the Alliance for Democracy in 2002, 2003. What happened was that the AD was the dominant party in the southwest at that time, and in Ogun State, the leader was Segun Oshoba, the then governor of the state. But the people it was operating with were not as good as he was, and he did not have the courage to call them to order. So a friend of mine called my attention to that, and I stepped in. At the time, I said, okay, what we do is that we divide let's take over the party. I was not a member of AD at that time, but I just announced myself the state chairman of AD. for struggle.
That must have sounded like a coup.
Oh, yeah. If you live it like. So, and at that time, there was a very wide hiatus between among the members, the top echelons of the party. There were two factions. One faction was led by Alhaji Abdul Kadri. The other was by, I would remember the name now. The Abdul Kadri's faction had 4 governors in the faction. The other one had 2 governors. Segun Oshoba belonged to the second group. So when I started trouble in Ogun State, the national executive of the party noticed me and sent for me and gave me a letter of appointment as the authentic chairman of Ogun State AD.
Wow.
Well, we continued, but along the line something happened again, and I had to fall out with the party because I detest cheating. Ogun State is divided politically into 3 senatorial districts like some other states. The Ogun East by the Jebus, the Ogun Central, the Egbas, and the Ogun West, the Aworis, what we call the Yewas. Since the beginning of the life of the Ogun State, the Yewas had never produced the governor of the state. So that was when in 2003, Chief Oshoba wanted to go again for the governorship. That's where I entered and said, okay, I'll pick my own candidate from Yewa, and I did.
Okay, so now, with the benefit of hindsight, because when one is young, there's a tendency to do things in the way you deem fits the most, or the way you believe is best. And
with exuberance.
Yes, and with no recourse to what other people feel or how other people feel. Now you're stepping halfway between 81 and 82. Right? And you must have had a few rethinks with regards to what you have done in terms of activism and politics and all of that. With the benefit of hindsight, are there some of the things you would have done differently if you know now the things if you knew then the things you know now?
Well, perhaps. I'm a man that doesn't follow the group or the crowd. I'm very, very independent in my thinking and actions.
How did you get to that point? Not many people are like that.
Well, maybe that's how I'm made. That's how God made me. Right from the beginning, that's what I am. I've never belonged to a government party, for example. A party in government.
Why?
Well, because I won't be in a position to counsel or to criticize. For example, you alluded to my clash with the UPN at that time. That's because I thought that if everybody goes the way of the governing party, there will be no dissenting voice. And dissenting voices are always to the advantage of the populace. When I had to go into politics, the most famous party in Ogun State was the UPN at that time. I chose to go the way of the NPN that nobody wanted in Ogun State at all. I contested to the seat to the Ogun State Assembly. I failed. But everybody knew that I meant business. Again, I left the AD to bring APGA to Ogun State.
APGA?
Yes.
But APGA is known as a predominantly southeastern party, quote and unquote.
Yes, you may be right. But it's a national party because unless you are national in nature, you will not be registered at all at that time by the INEC. APGA got registered, so I was.
In fact, you rise to the, I think, deputy national chairman.
In actual fact,
yes.
After being the first state chairman in Ogun State, I became the national vice chairman for Southwest. And as I'm talking now, I'm a member of the board of trustees of APGA.
Wow.
Now, this is because, yes, the point Kemi raised is very germane. Some people in APGA would like people to think that APGA is predominantly an Igbo party. That is not so, but that's the way it is being run now. That is why we have only one government in Nigeria, and this government is Anambra State. APGA refused to grow beyond Anambra State.
Why?
Even though we have series of victories in legislative elections now. We have members in the Senate, members in the House of Reps, in various assemblies and so on. But APGA is being run as if it's the property of a group of people in the southeast. But still, I'm still a member. I'm Yoruba, I'm not Igbo.
Yes, your name says that.
Therefore, if I'm an important member of APGA, I should tell you that. But that is a different matter we are going to discuss on another day.
Okay. But since you mentioned APGA, it will be important to talk about the first governor that brought APGA into prominence, the first person who won an election on the platform of APGA. And that person happened to also run for the presidency in the last elections. As someone who's been a part of APGA, as someone who, understands APGA, there have been some things, in the air that was said that this particular personality, and I'm talking about none other than Peter Obi, that at some point he promised and made a vow that he would never leave APGA. And that's coming from one of your past chairmen, right? I'd like to know, what are some of the things you have experienced with that individual? That's number one. And number two, was such a promise ever made?
I can't remember any time he promised he would never leave APGA. But I want to tell you quickly that Peter Obi is a fine gentleman. He is a performer. If you are looking for somebody who can lead this country to glory, Peter Obi is one of them.
Okay, so is it safe to say that in the last elections you voted or you rooted for him?
I rooted for him, yes, but I knew that it would not come to pass.
Why? How?
Because we are not in a country where everybody is politically educated. If that were the case, Peter Obi would have been the president by now, would not be a disputed president now. Obi is very clean. When members of the National Executive of ABGA had anything to do in Anambra State, Obi would not spend one kobo of government money to entertain them.
Wow.
He would write his own personal check and give food prepared by his wife, not going to restaurants or hotels to eat. Okay. Besides, he does not like spending lavishly. Anywhere he went alone, not taking 5, 7, 8, 10.
Okay, so let me ask you the next question that comes to mind. The election is at the tribunals, and I know it's sub judice as we speak. But some people believe, quote and unquote, that he actually won the elections. Do you share that sentiment?
Well, I'm not in a position to say that now because everything now belongs to the courts. It's in the domain of the judiciary. INEC perhaps will be in a position to tell us the truth. Nobody knows the truth now until, of course, we had the verdict of the tribunal. Now.
Oh, okay. If you're just joining us, this is a special interview session with a fine gentleman, an elder statesman, an author, a media professional, a politician, and a father. Elder statesman TAYO SUWUNMI. He's been sharing his experiences with us and his growing up days and a lot of talking points on politics. Before we go on break, let's look at the political part. You spoke a lot about your younger days and how you ventured into politics. Now, I know that those days, the administrators of political parties were supreme. They called the shot and not political leaders like we have these days. The governor is a leader of the party in his state and the president at the federal. How did we get this transition? How did it go from being the chairman of the party leader to becoming the governor? How did we get here?
Well, members of political parties often do not do their duties. They don't, sorry. The governor is supposed to be a member of the party. Before you become the leader of the party, I mean, there should be a clear difference between being governor and being leader. I still go back to ABGA. During the life of the late
Odumegwu Ojukwu.
Yeah, the life of ABGA at that time. He wasn't the governor, he wasn't president. We all acknowledged him as the leader of the party. Both the governor, the party chairman, members of the party were under him. And the party ran very, very well. But as it is now, once you become governor of a state, everything should come under you. And incidentally, they also entrench that in the various constitutions of the parties, which I think has to be changed somehow. So, being leader of a party is quite different from being governor of a state.
Or an elected official.
Yes. Your duty as a governor is governance. And your duty as leader of the party is to oversee the activities of the party, including the activities of the governor himself. But that's not the case now. I think we should go back to that.
How do we go back to that?
By first of all, engineering the various constitutions of the party to reflect what you want now. Because once you put this in the constitution, it becomes very easy for the governor to do whatever they want.
Okay, we've been speaking with Chief TAYO SUWUNMI, an activist, a politician, a teacher, a father of great Iroko trees, even in the media industry. And we'll have to take a quick break, and when we do come back, we'll look at him asking for Kano, SLS, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, to contest for presidency and why he chose him for that. For that, okay?
Yes, and we also touch on education and even some other. We'll be back in a moment. Please don't go away. Citizen FM Abuja. Citizen FM. Make we join our hands to build a nation of our dreams. Citizen FM. Citizen FM. Your problem is my problem and my joy is your joy. Citizen FM. Citizen FM. Make we join our hands to build a nation of our dreams. Citizen FM. Citizen. Citizen FM, Citizen FM. Citizen FM Abuja. Now we be the voice of the people. Citizen FM Abuja. Now we be the voice of the people. Citizen FM, Citizen FM. Make we join our hands to build a nation of our dreams. Thank you for staying tuned. Still Citizen FM 93.7, and welcome to the special interview session. Kemi Asheku is still here with me. Kem.
My loved ones call me Kem, and I'm here. It's a pleasure to be here, of course, and of course we have a very special, important guest, a man who has given most of his life to fighting for the cheated, the downtrodden, people who can ordinarily not speak up for himself. And like he said, he's usually not in the ruling party, and that tells you it's more of an altruistic thing for him. It's a selfless service to country and, of course, to the citizenry of our great nation, Nigeria. Chief TAYO SUWUNMI is a man that many people want to emulate, and he's our guest today on Citizen FM 93.7.
Yes, and also, Kemi, we didn't even talk about his media life. He's also a media professional.
Absolutely. We'll get this.
In the race, there's so much to talk about when you're talking with such a personality.
When we started, I said, I feel like we have a meal before us and we're about to unwrap it. And I think that is what it's looking like, right? Before we went on that break, we did mention that at some point, I know that you do have a very good relationship with the former Emir of Kano and the former CBN governor in the person of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. And at some point, you called for him to run for president. Where did the confidence in him come from? And firstly, I must say that you're a true Nigerian, a member of ABGA, and also calling for someone from the north to be president. But let's talk about that relationship and where the confidence to, have him run as president came from, and why he hasn't done that yet.
Thank you. The former Emir of Kano is a personal friend. I got in contact with him when he was governor of the central bank.
Okay.
And the way he ran the bank had me falling in love with him, so to say.
Wow.
You see, the Emir, Sanusi is a very, very interesting character. Call him an activist, yes. Because he doesn't care whose ox is God in any matter. He speaks his mind. Very recently, he was talking somewhere and was, I think he was so bold to tell us that we take too much rubbish in this country.
Yes, indeed, we did.
And that's an advice for the current president, Bola Tinubu. If you want somebody that will give candid opinions on any matter, economic, political, social, go to Sanusi. He's never tired of speaking his mind, and usually it is the truth.
Okay, but let's quickly talk about him being emir. Some people say that the reason why the emirs have a swath around their mouth is so that they do not, speak their mind like that
on impulse,
and in the, in the public space, especially if you have the ear, of the leadership, and which some people believe he does. So let's talk about that temperament with regards to also being emir.
Well, that sorry.
Yes, sir.
That attribute got him into trouble with the governor of Kano State, remember?
Yes,
and Ganduje. And that's why Ganduje took the action he took against him. Well, that didn't prevent him from being what he is up till today. One of the reasons why I called that he should actually make up his mind and contest for the presidency of the country. That's the type of person that can rule this country. He's a detribalized Nigerian. He has friends all over the place. There is no way you can talk about Sanusi that you would not want people of his ilk to be like a country.
But then I want to go to something I learned in school, because you're a teacher. And one of the things we were taught in school is that talk is cheap. It's easy to be a talker than a doer. How do we marry the talking and the doing of this your bosom friend?
He's a talker and he's a doer. Remember, I got kicked off the CBN seat by Village Jonathan.
Absolutely.
Yes.
For talking.
Yes, for talking. And he was thereafter installed the Emir of Kano.
And got kicked out again?
When he got there again, he forgot his experience in CBN with Jonathan and started criticizing the government of Kano State and got kicked out again. He doesn't care what you do to him. Before the last election that threw up Bola Tinubu as president. Sorry about this.
Okay, please go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
He told Tinubu that he was supporting him, but if he did anything wrong, he would be very quick to criticize him, and that is still what he's doing now. He's still doing criticizing the governor of the day. So Sanusi is not somebody you can put under the carpet. It's not possible for you to do so. He's so ebullient and so straightforward and he has candid opinions. So all this, when you say he's a talker, he's a doer, I say yes.
Okay, let's get back to the education sector. That's one of your constituency. You were once, I think, the secretary of NUT and also a former student union leader. So that naturally is your constituency. Now, what would you say to the priority we give to the to education as a nation all over the years, including strikes by lecturers last year, or is it the 2021, where universities were shut for most of the year, and it's always a recurrent decimal all along. The way teachers are treated, the way people in the education sectors are also treated, workers and everything. What would you say generally? How do we get out of this from your experience over the years?
I don't think we accord any priority to education in the country at all. Teachers are treated as non-entities in the country. And unless we accord teachers their rightful position and add value to what they're doing, education will continue to fall and fall and fall. Well, the technology these days are helping the country in training our young ones. Even the people in our children in KG in nursery school can operate the phone, can operate anything now. But that's not our own making. Teachers are supposed to be people who mold the young lives into adulthood. But teachers have always been at the suffering end of the stake. Anytime, as NUT secretary, one of my duties was to protect the interest of teachers. But throughout the number of years I spent there, the lot of teachers did not change. And that is what is happening. In the universities, nobody wants to become a lecturer. You make a first class in your degree exam. You make second class up on your degree exam. You still want something that will be more juicy than that. Because whatever you are, nobody recognizes you. That is what actually leads to professional misconduct by some teachers. Teachers should be better paid than any professional in any country. It happens in Canada, it happens in Australia.
Sir, while I quite appreciate and understand the fact that teachers are the molders of what anybody becomes at the end of the day, the foundation, but I would like to ask you, teaching in itself, right, isn't teaching a selfless endeavor, right? Because in my own opinion, no one can ever pay you for what they will eventually become and the foundation you have laid. In other words, I doubt that anybody will ever be able to pay a teacher what the teacher is truly worth, right? And so, my question to you then will be, is it not important to have the orientation of the teachers in such a way as for them to understand that this is a labor of love? And if it is a labor of love, regardless of what your take-home is, you still must, because you see, if these students that they have taught come back together to say, I remember this teacher, I remember Mr. Bloody P, who taught me English. I don't remember his real name, right? But it was in Grace Children's School. He used to say, you are a Bloody P. So everybody called him Mr. Bloody P, right? How do we get the teachers to have that orientation that this is a sacrificial job as a teacher?
Well, that time I don't think that time will come again. In the past years, a lot of people went into teaching because they loved the profession. But now, that is no more. You see, the teachers go to the same market with the senators, with the doctors, and so on. But the spending power of all these other professionals is quite stronger than that of the teacher. But nobody is giving that. If you go to any school now, ask all the children to stand up and ask them, what do you want to become in future? Nobody will tell you they're going to be a teacher. No. I'm talking to you because in my younger days, I personally chose teaching as a profession. That's why every step of my education was along the teaching line. Teachers grade 3, teachers grade 2, NCE, BA education, MA education. Everything education. But what have I gained? Except for my activism, I probably would not be not known at all, because I suffered a great. When we were in the University of Lagos, the students in the other faculties called us Sakuba, as we said.
What does that mean?
That's St. Andrew's College, or your old student association. That's a teacher training college. And despite the fact that we were mixed, law students, political science students, and so on, we were mixed in the hostels. When you go to the dining hall to eat, if you have 2 law students eating on the table, and you from the College of Education, of Faculty, you took your food and stayed in front of them, they will look at everybody, each other's face, and they carry their food. And let's go. They leave you there because they don't want to mix with you. That was what made me the the president of Nigeria of University of Lagos Students Union. I waged a war against the others faculty students.
Wow.
I was the first education student to become that to hold that position, and perhaps the last too.
Student Union president.
Still staying with education, would you subscribe to the autonomy of universities, for example? Because I know that a lot of activists, especially in that sector, ASU and the rest, do not want the kind of autonomy that is being proposed by the government. Some people have even accused ASU of eating their cake and even wanting it back. On one hand, you want government to invest in universities. On the other hand, you don't want government to know what is happening or have a say of what is happening. What would be your recommendation?
Well, I think the universities should be autonomous. I think so. Even if some people don't like it. The Minister of Education is not necessarily an educationist. So he may not know where the shoe pinches. But the teachers who are teaching the university know what they want for effective learning to take place in the universities. But outside, people see that topic in a different manner. I think the Nigerian Labour Congress itself is not doing well enough for workers. That's perhaps why the ASU sometimes go the way they go without listening to any pleading from anybody. They are not being treated well at all. Autonomy is what should be given. The universities, university administration rests on the vice chancellor, the registrar, and so on. These people too don't consider themselves as teachers. They think they are in management, and before they attend to the grievances of teachers, it will be too late. The labor, let me recall the last debacle with the Minister of Labor, when teachers went on strike for almost 1 year, and the labor minister was not perturbed at all for that. How can that be? Education, the bedrock of any development of any country. You neglect it, you neglect the future of the children, the future of the country. I think the university should be given autonomy. You asked the first question that is education being given the right priority? No priorities are accorded to education in this country now, because the budgets always have education as maybe almost 5% or something, which is not good enough. The universities themselves today, when we were going to university, we were not. There was no JAM. There was nothing. You just applied to universities with your credentials. You may be admitted into several universities, and then you pick what you wanted. It's not so now. Everything is under the government now, and they call the shots. The Minister of Education, the State Minister of Education, and so on. Depending on what you mean by autonomy, to me, I think the university should be autonomous. Let the government give them enough fund, to fund the faculties. What are we doing with all this? Forgotten what I want to say now.
Okay.
Okay. You are in your 80s and you use an Android device. It's a rarity, just in case you don't know, sir. Not many people of your age can use an Android device. What they know how to do is what we call the palasa phone. Pick up the call and drop the call. But here you are in your 80s and you're using an Android phone. And for me, I must really commend you. I'm almost suspecting that you're on Twitter. Well, I know if you're not on Twitter, you're likely to be on Facebook. But we'll leave that aside. With regards to education has now moved from the classrooms. With this device in your hands, you can actually get educated with a lot of things. As a matter of fact, some universities in the US actually put their lectures for free on YouTube. Our educational sector seems to be stuck in the mud. And I'll give you an example. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the ASU lecturers actually said that they cannot offer the students education via the internet because they were not prepared for it or something. And that is in Nigeria, where virtually every teen or every youth who's in the university has access to an Android phone. What do we need to do for our educational sector to move from the stuck in the mud position it seems to be in now and upgrade it to what the world standards of education is at the moment, so that we are not left behind?
First and foremost, the gadget you're talking about must be made available to students.
Many of them have it. Their parents have made it available.
A host of others don't.
Okay.
A host of others don't. You are talking of you're praising me for using this. How are you sure that I'm not doing just using it to take calls and call people like this?
Chief, should we open the phone?
No.
Chief, should we open the phone?
Well, I think there should be a reorientation. There must be courses in this for teachers and for pupils themselves, or for students themselves. Not everybody can use this. What you have there is a lot of things here that are very confusing too. But it contains a lot of things. You may not go to school and get educated with this thing. Go to Google. If you want history, you have it there. You want geography, you have it there. So it should be made available to people. You talk of the people you say have it are people, students who come from well-to-do families. There are a lot of people who cannot buy this. So many of them, and they anchor after it, but they don't have and they're in the majority.
Okay, let's take a look at the difference between being literate and being educated. Many people confuse the two, but I know that my grandmother, who used to be the Yoloja of Mokala in Ghana, will say to me then that meaning I may not know how to read a book, but I have sense.
Yes.
There's a great difference between literacy and education, and a lot of people don't know that. Can you help us, highlight the differences?
Well, that's what's playing out in the society today. You may even go to the university and yet be
uneducated.
You are literate. You can read, you can write, you can do this, but you're not educated the proper way. So the difference is that what we set for ourselves as values, once you can't imbibe that, you are not educated. To be literate is to go to school, learn how to read and write, and a few other things. But to be educated means you should learn the property of the cultural values of your society and the world at large. Not many people do that. That is why we have the problem we have in this country today. A lot of our people in government are literates. They are not educated because they don't know the value of education.
You would not believe it. We have less than 3 minutes to go.
Exactly, Kemi.
Well, I feel like we could go on and on for another 1 hour.
Exactly, but before we go,
yes,
if you had the opportunity, I know that a lot of young people are listening to us. What will you tell them in just maybe a minute or two about?
I still have one question.
Okay, let's take your question first.
No, finish. Finish.
So just talk to young Nigerians about how do we get this country moving. What experiences should they learn from? Just what is your take to them? Just talk to them.
My advice to them is that they should stop being the future leaders of the country. Most of them now are the leaders of the country. A lot of governors are under the age of 40 now. a lot of legislators at the Senate level, the House of Reps level, are below 40. So let them do what they want. Let them fashion the life they want, the people they want for themselves.
No.
And those of them sitting on the fence outside should join them. Politics is the way to go if you want to advance your own privileges. You have to join them. Don't stay aloof. You really have to be there before you can do what you want for yourself.
Okay, Chief, we are about to leave, but because I'm from Ogun State, I know that my Ogun State people will not forgive me if I don't ask you this question. So I want to take that responsibility very seriously. You are the Babanla Adini of Egbaland and the Baba Adini of Ijemo Abeokuta, Ogun State. What are the responsibilities that you hold with those titles, and what have you done with them thus far?
In the Muslim community, there are two sections of leaders. The Alfas take care of the religious part of it. The other invited chiefs are called Ologuns. They are in the administrative sector. As Baba Dini, I am the head of the administrative section. If there's any problem in the community, Muslim community, if there's any misunderstanding, they bring it to you to adjudicate. That's exactly what I'm doing right away.
Fantastic. And it's a good place to hang it this morning, even though I would have loved to talk about your very famous daughter and the publisher of the Point newspaper, Dr. Yemi Kolakpo. But as it is, time has actually told us that we have less than...
of Grace Children's School too.
Grace? Oh, she went to Grace too?
Of course.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine? No, that